Hi, welcome to our monthly broadcast. My name is Natalia and I'm here with my colleague Laura. The first topic that we'll be discussing today is the termination of Amazon's VAT services. How does this affect you, whether you are already on the services, or if you're a new seller looking for this service, what options do you have?
Next, we'll be having James, who'll be talking about marketplaces, what's required to sell on them, and what your options are.
After James, we have Khaled joining us to discuss OSS and maybe why your business is excluded from this requirement.
And next, we'll be having Ellie talking about single-use plastics, the new legislations in 2025, and how this affects your business.
After that, we have Piero joining us with customs and logistics and the contingency plans you should put in place for Q4.
Next, we'll be having Patrick, who'll be talking about the end of the cost program, the effects that that's had, and what your next steps might be to continue selling.
During the broadcast, leave your comments and questions on the chat, and then Laura and I will be answering them at the end. But it'll be easier if you just start posting them, and then we can catch up and answer all your questions.
So Natalia and I will be talking about the end of the Amazon VAT services, which we are aware a lot of sellers have been using, and what potential consequences or actions that you need to take to make sure that on the VAT side you are still compliant.
Yeah, it's been recently announced, and obviously it's a big shock for everyone. Amazon VAT services is no longer a service that you can join. Obviously, I do appreciate that a lot of you are already on the service, so there are options for you to move over. So you would have received the email, but if you haven't, just to let you know, the Amazon VAT services are finishing. So if you're on the Amazon VAT services already, you have until the 31st of October to switch with your existing provider, or if you're unhappy, you can switch to someone else. For all of our clients, you would have received this email, and all you have to do is very, very simple. Sign the new terms and conditions, this time with a VASC, because the service is no longer with Amazon, it's directly with us. So you just sign the terms and conditions, and then you sign up to the payment plan that you'll be paying a VASC instead of Amazon. But the price is pretty similar to what you were on before as well.
Exactly, and there'll be no need to sign new POAs or these elements. So because obviously that was already in place before, the VAT numbers don't change as well. I know there's often a concern of, waiting for a new registration, but that's not something that you should be worried about. It will still proceed with the same VAT registration as you had previously.
Yeah, we have all your details already. Yeah. So if you were with us anyways, we have everything we need. Mm-hmm. It's just the terms and conditions and the payment as that will go to a VASC moving forward from the day that you switch, essentially. But again, you do have until the 31st of October. So there's plenty of time for you to do this switch, and everything will continue as normal. The service moving forward will be under a VASC. You'll have your own client portal with your own login details, and you can see all your filings on there. So it's very, very simple.
Some of you might not actually have even registered VAT numbers, or maybe you are with a provider and you do want to switch. So in that case, what will need to happen is new POAs. Again, as Natalia said, the process is very simple. You'll receive all the links and instructions on where to sign, and the team will assist you with that. But just to be aware that you do need to then, with the tax office, assign a new agent, so a VASC, for example, who will be doing that for you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a new seller that you wanted to go on the Amazon VAT services and you've maybe gone on to Seller Central to find these, you'll realize that obviously they're not there anymore, but you do have the option of coming directly to a VASC. So as Laura mentioned, you'll just get a link to your client portal. You can tell us what services you want, if you want registrations or you want a transfer over from a different tax provider, and then we'll just guide you through the process. We'll ask you for the documents that you need to sign up for this VAT registration, or again, the transfer. But very, very simple. The price is similar to what you would have been paying under the Amazon VAT services, because we do appreciate this is a self-serve service that you would be applying for, and you can pay this either annually or monthly, depending on your preference.
Just another point to add is there's also additional countries that you might be interested to add.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different emerging markets, or potentially new markets where you can put your products, new platforms on Amazon. So if there are countries where you want to register for VAT to store, to expand your business, you can do that also with Avask directly.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this program. Before with Amazon, you were restricted to the pan-EU countries, but now Avask offers so many services that you can add these on. Apart from the pan-EU, you can also add Australia or Sweden or Switzerland.
Yeah.
All the countries that we offer are available for you under the portal, so you just have to select which ones you want. If you don't actually know which ones you want, just give us a call and we can guide you, tell you which ones you need, because we don't want you to register for some that you might not need. We can guide you, and then you can go through the process on the portal.
So speaking of calls, one thing that is really important from our experience with our sellers is the languages that you can speak to someone in regarding your business, regarding your VAT obligations. Of course, these are quite complex matters, so we completely understand that it is important to be able to speak in your preferred language with someone on the phone, and that's why we offer the core languages and more to be able to advise you and give you that consultation.
Yeah, so I think obviously if you do have any questions, pop them on the chat and we can answer them, but I hope we've covered everything that you would have questions on. Just a reminder, if you're an existing client, you no longer have to activate the services via the Seller Central. You can just go on our website, avast.com/VAT services on Amazon, ending Avast. You'll see this page, and as you can see, you can fall under two different categories. Either you're an existing client of Avask and you just want to transfer over to our new service, which is as simple as following the 3 steps. Re-sign your terms and conditions, set up your payment term details on our portal, and connect your Seller Central. If you're switching over from a different provider over to Avask, it's as simple as filling in this form. And as we mentioned, it's €300 per country per year, free transfer, and obviously we can register any additional numbers that you need. So just click on the link and it will take you to the 2 different options, and then we can help you from there.
For those of you sellers who are already operational within Amazon Europe and are utilizing the Amazon Pan-EU program and are still looking to maximize your revenue from the European marketplace, well, there is the debate of either expanding into new markets or expanding into new marketplaces. The recommendation I have is to start looking at other marketplaces, as the Europeans have certain local buying habits where they tend to buy from their local marketplaces alongside of Amazon. Examples of this are, for example, within the Netherlands and Belgium, where bol.com is a direct competitor of Amazon. Within the likes of Germany with Kaufland, which is operational in Germany, Austria, Poland, and Czech Republic and Slovenia, and of course Allegro in Poland. So if you are looking to maximize your profits and revenue from the European market where you're already present, I would recommend looking at other marketplaces.
OSS, or one-stop shop, is a universal filing system in which your European sales are getting filed within. The rules for registration are different based on where your company is incorporated. If you are incorporated within the EU and you're only fulfilling from your country of incorporation, you don't need to register for OSS unless you reach a threshold of €10,000 in sales. if you are fulfilling from your own country and another country, or you have applied for another VAT number, you need to register for OSS as soon as possible. And if you are incorporated outside of the EU and you're selling on platforms like Amazon, eBay or Zalando, you can use their OSS number, therefore you don't need a registration unless you're selling on your own website. If you are not sure whether you need to file OSS, feel free to reach out to us and we can check your situation in depth.
Effective from the 1st of January 2025, the German Extended Producer Responsibility Regulation will affect your single-use plastic products on your German marketplaces. This regulation mandates that producers, importers and distributors of single-use plastic items engage in a systematic approach to their collection, sorting and recycling. To maintain your listings of single-use plastic products post-deadline, adherence to the EPR mandates is essential, including the submission of your registration numbers. Listings that do not comply will be deactivated post-imposed marketplace deadlines. Here's what you need to do. If you're a producer based in Germany, you will need to secure registration numbers for all your brands across the various categories of single-use plastics by registering through a service provider like Avast with the German Environment Agency. For producers outside of Germany, you will need to designate an authorized representative to manage the single-use plastics obligations on your behalf. For those utilizing dropshipping or reselling, you're able to acquire the registration numbers from your upstream suppliers. From 2025 onwards, you will need to annually report the types and volumes of single-use plastic products sold in Germany and make payment of the associated eco-fees. To ensure you can demonstrate compliance to marketplaces when their portals for single-use plastic products goes live at the end of 2024, we advise registering promptly with Avast with our new service coming soon.
Here's what we think: you should have a shipping contingency plan for Q4. As if you ask anyone that's working in freight, that will tell you this has to be one of the probably weirdest years that we've had in shipping. This is because it started with Chinese New Year being very early on in the year, and then because of the war and the Red Sea issues, the shipping side of things hasn't really improved. The goods are still, especially from the Far East going towards the US and Europe, are still going through Cape of Good Hope, adding a lot of time and transit times to your shipments, which means for Q4, you have to be ready a little bit sooner. If you aren't ready yet, there are different methods, and these are the things that I wanted to discuss today with you guys. So very simply, ocean freight is not the only solution that is in place. Currently, there are multiple options for you to ship from China, let's say, for example. We can look into rail freight and air freight, most importantly. Rail freight being high demand right now and actually being a functioning option from China towards Europe. The transit times are a lot quicker, of course, but obviously it has a higher cost as well. When it comes to planning ahead for your stock, especially for the Q4 seasonal period, and let's say, for example, if you were to have seasonal products, what do I suggest? I would say thinking about the air sea approach, where you are making sure that some of the stock is already where you're at your final destination. You can air freight as many goods as you want. Obviously, the cost will be higher per product, but the goods get there in a very short amount of time. Whilst with ocean freight and the time that's already taken, which is around the 45-day mark to go to the US and Europe, we are looking at transit times to actually increase because of the demands and the amount of goods they're moving and how busy the shipping liners are currently for Q4. So expect that 45-day mark to get increased to 50, 55, 60 days. So when it comes to Q4, you have to be ahead of time. And one main suggestion is come and talk to us, and we can give you the best suggestion for your type of product and making sure your stock is always available throughout Q4.
This is a reminder that the call of stock program from Amazon has ended as of 1st of August 2024. Your options are to either remain within that one country where you are VAT registered and to fulfill orders from there to the neighbouring EU countries, but be aware that this will incur an additional FBA cross-border fee, which is higher than the domestic charge which was previously being utilised under the call of stock program. The other option is to switch to the Pan-EU program by obtaining another VAT registration in one of the 4 major markets, and also having active listings within those 4 major markets, plus Netherlands, which has recently become a requirement from Amazon. This program will allow you to utilize those domestic FBA fees, which will be lower, and also bring some additional benefits as well. Amazon are also offering a €440 reimbursement for any additional VAT registrations if you enter the VAT number into Seller Central before the 1st of November, this being the Pan-EU countries which were previously utilised under the call of stock program. Be aware that some countries have very lengthy VAT registration processes, so if you do not want to miss out on this offer, the time to start is now. If you need any help with your VAT registrations or have any further questions on this topic, please get in touch with us today.
Thank you so much for listening. We've had lots of questions already on the chat. Hopefully you found all the sessions available, but obviously we'll go through the different questions so that we can answer those. We also have someone responding on the chat. So if we don't get to your question, make sure that rest assured that we are responding to them. We did get a question in Italian, which unfortunately neither James or I speak Italian, but I believe it says, and it's in relation actually to another question, which says that Amazon is charging VAT on a lot of the invoices recently. Yes, this is, so let me click on this one so you can see. Amazon made a recent change on the 1st of August that yes, Amazon now charges VAT on a lot of their fees, but it is reclaimable. So you can reclaim this with your local accountant, and that will be reclaimable just like any B2B transaction.
Yeah, and this is sort of the thing to consider. The last couple of months, these sorts of things are reclaimable from a VAT perspective. So, send these invoices across to your tax consultant in those other countries, and then they should be able to put a reclaim in place and get you that money back for you. Now, this is a really good opportunity to sort of put some questions in about the different topics. I know we actually mentioned quite a few from the likes of different marketplaces, the ending of sort of the Amazon program again, call of stock, and a few others. So we're more than happy to answer any sort of questions you may have live. So do get any questions, do pop them in the chat and we'll see if we can answer them for you.
So I know, Craig, you've asked a couple of questions. One of them is how can you sign up to the new service? There's loads of different links depending on the type of customer that you are, as we mentioned before. But if you go to avask.com, you'll be able to find all the information. And depending on who or what type of client you are, you can then go through the different steps. So I'm hoping you can find that on avask.com.
Exactly. I think, Craig, you actually asked the second question a few moments later, which is up on screen, in terms of is the new service, the self-service, as we refer to it as, just for EU and UK companies? The quick answer is no. It's for any sort of seller, regardless of where you're domiciled, to sort of get those VAT registrations in place, and then obviously report those VAT filings on a regular basis. So the domicile country does not make a difference.
Doesn't matter. The service, though, however, is for the EU. So maybe that's where it's getting confusing. Anyone can apply for the service, but we mainly focus on EU, although we also offer Australia, KSA, UAE, but the US is not included in this new service. But as a US incorporated company, of course, you can apply. Then we've got a question here from an existing customer that you're already signed up to iOSS with us. That's great. Thank you so much. And I think you said, do you need to cancel iOSS to then join this new service? Short answer, no. You don't have to cancel any of your existing services to then use this additional one. You can keep iOSS as it is and then use the new service for anything else that you need.
I think the question might be here also is, having VAT numbers and utilizing the import one-stop shop from outside of the European Union to sell directly into consumers, it depends on your e-commerce strategy, what you're looking to utilize. If you're primarily Amazon, then the iOSS is probably less relevant. So it depends if you're looking to do D2C, B2C. Consider that in terms of your whole strategy. It's probably what we would advise in that regard.
Then there's questions on EPR and the whole pay on behalf scheme. Pay on behalf scheme is still in place and is still offered in a lot of countries. To your question with German plastics, we don't know yet because it's coming into effect in January 2025. We know Germany as a whole doesn't offer pay on behalf, so it's very likely that they won't for plastics. So do be ready for it not to be available. In the other countries, they do offer pay on behalf, but Germany is one of those that, unfortunately, it's not one of the options.
I think specifically regarding this, we will have updates, later in the year. So stay tuned to sort of other broadcasts and sort of any of our newsletters that we do send out. As soon as we have a clear answer from the authorities in Germany, we'll of course, inform everyone as quickly and as efficiently as we can.
Yes, perfect. Let's have a look at this one.
I suppose in the meantime, any other sort of questions, get them in chat still. Like we said, we're quite happy to answer them live for you guys. We even had a question earlier. Is this live? Yes, it is. So happy to sort of, answer them as they come.
Yeah, perfect. So is Amazon still collecting marketplace VAT and just stopping using Avalara from registration? We didn't get an email. So there's two things here. Amazon as a marketplace will continue to collect VAT for you, in particular for those non-EU companies. So if you're incorporated outside the EU, Amazon collects and remits the VAT for you. This is not the case for European companies. You will receive the VAT and you will have to pay the tax offices. So that's not changing. Just because all of this is changing, that is still in place.
Yeah, just sort of reiterate, Amazon's ending the relationship and program with the Amazon VAT services, where Avalara was one of the other sort of tax providers on there. So it's more the program is being cancelled. The marketplace facilitator laws will still come into effect, and they will affect you the same way they previously have for the last sort of 3 years.
Yeah. This is actually a great question. Thanks, Simon. So yes, you can speak to someone when you originally onboard onto the self-serve program, because we just want to make sure that you're onboarding to the right things. And maybe if there's something that you haven't thought about, that we make sure that you're aware of it. After that, as the name rightly says, it is a self-serve service. So it will be all non-inclusive of consultation. But at the beginning, yes, of course, you will have a call with one of our onboarding specialists and they can guide you through the process. They can explain what you need to do. But after that, it will be all on a portal. You just fill in the questions that it asks you, and it's all self-serve.
And with regards to that, if I'm not mistaken, I think there is the option if you do need an hour consultancy with a specific specialist, there's sort of one-off fee under the self-service option. It is more of a reactive service driven primarily through software, where you as sort of a seller are required to sort of, put in a bit of work, upload some documents and for it to operate. If that's not necessarily the service you need and you need to spend your time elsewhere within resourcing, SEO, whatever, there are other options such as sort of our core service that we do also offer with an indirect tax consultant looking after you through sort of the Avast premium service that we provide. So there are many options, reach out to us and we can sort of advise you what would be better suited for your company, its strategy, and also its size in terms of the self-service, which is a little bit more reactive, or the proactive service, which is more the Amazon, the Avast premium service.
Yeah. And you can always switch. So if you're not in a position to use our premium service right now because you're just starting off and you don't have the revenue, you can always start with self-serve and then switch. So that's not an issue at all. But as James was saying, it does depend on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a full consultation service, then premium would be more ideal for you.
Precisely. It depends on the complexity of the strategy. If you're primarily Amazon, then self-service may be good. If you're looking at sort of different strategies, B2B, D2C, you do need that extra support to ensure that your taxes are being collected and remitted correctly, firstly, and actually they're being calculated correctly. So come speak to us. We're more than happy to have a conversation and see what's best for your company.
Yeah, perfect. Next up, we have, what does it mean that VAT services on Amazon is ending? I guess that's literally it. Amazon is no longer offering the VAT services through Amazon's platform, but that doesn't mean that you can't have VAT services with the providers that were originally on via Amazon. So VAS being one of them, we have the services still. We will always have our VAT services. It's just rather than going through Amazon, you go directly to the provider. So that's essentially what we mean by saying that the Amazon services are ending. If you are on them right now, you can obviously switch to this type of service. So you're always going to have an option.
Definitely. And I see a question there from Marcus talking about what revenue level would you typically, that's one just below, I think.
Oh, Marcus, we have 2.
We will do the second question first. In terms of sort of what revenue level, because I can sort of combine them both. I think typically it's more about the complexity of your business. We don't, base it upon your revenue. It's more about what are you trying to achieve. Are you operating the business alone and need to spend your time elsewhere and would like to sort of completely outsource the tax sort of situation? So we don't base it on revenue. It's more about the complexity and what your needs are and what the business needs at that point in time.
Which I guess that leads on to your second question, what is the cost? It actually depends on the number of countries that you select. So we can bundle these for you and give you the best price for your company. It won't be the same price if you're doing 1 country as if you're doing 7. And obviously the vast range of services is so broad that we could come up with a tailored quote for you. So it's really going to depend. But Marcus, if you want to just reach out, we can give you a quote. And then you can establish which is the service that's best for you.
Definitely. So once again, get your questions in. I see the questions have somewhat slowed down. So if you do have any questions regarding anything, do let us know in that regard.
Interesting question here. How many people work for Avast in the Amazon support department? It's actually a whole team. You have the team from the onboarding specialists, which I think ranges up to 20 people we have.
Correct, yes.
Then you have the administrators, which will be the ones doing the registrations for you, which again is another 20. So it is a lot. And we're actually located in a lot of offices to make sure that we have that communication with the tax office directly. And if there's any issues, we can just communicate with them in the local language and from that country. So the team is huge, and we can obviously help you no matter where you're coming from.
Definitely. I think you've mentioned something quite important there in terms of the team are based across Europe, and with that they do speak other languages. So if English is not your first language, as we've seen some Italian that's been written in the chat, we are able to support in sort of certain other languages, and specifically with regards to the end of the Amazon VAT services program from Amazon specifically, and the introduction of the Avast self-service program. We are actually holding a few webinars next week, specifically, I believe it's about 45 minutes, an hour long on this topic, with a lot more detail and information about what the program entails, any questions, any issues that we've encountered, would like to inform you about, transferring tax numbers. So they will be held, I believe, in 4 different languages or 5 even?
5, I believe. All across next week. So for all the language speakers on the chat, apologies if we haven't been able to answer your questions, but hopefully if you join next week's webinar, which is fully dedicated to the self-serve, we'll be able to answer the questions in your own language. So.
Precisely. So I think off the top of my head, it is in English, as you can perhaps tell here, German, French, Spanish, and Italian, if I'm not mistaken. So there is good coverage. If there are any sort of specific questions out of scope of those languages, do reach out to us again, and we can see what we can do to facilitate that and help you understand what these changes are.
And you don't have to be an Avast client to join.
Exactly.
So anyone can join, and we can just guide you through the differences. I think we had another question similar to this one. Marcus, we're actually mainly located in the UK. That's where our headquarters are. But as we mentioned, we have offices elsewhere as well.
Precisely. I think Avast has over 14 offices sort of globally, throughout Europe, all the way out to sort of, Asia, and also sort of in the US. So we have good coverage. Obviously, we're talking more European services here. So we're talking the likes of sort of, Paris, Frankfurt, Milan, and so on. But do get your questions in. And I believe we've got one here from Anthony, which I'm sure you can answer.
So if you don't enroll with Avast, will the VAT for the UK and the EU still be remitted by Amazon? Yes. So Amazon will still collect and remit, like we were saying, for non-EU companies, but that doesn't mean that they're filing. So that's the key thing. Although someone is collecting the VAT for you and is paying it to the tax office, you still have to declare your sales, which is where someone like Avast comes in. So don't just rely on Amazon doing this portion of the work for you, because at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter, you need a tax agent to file on your behalf in that tax office.
I think just to reiterate that it is compulsory to file a tax return alongside Amazon remitting the sales tax they've collected for you. If you are storing, you're importing, or you're selling locally, that needs to be reported regardless if you're doing so or not. And linking in with another topic we discussed today in terms of reclaiming those, the VAT that's charged on certain fees from Amazon, that can be done through the tax filing. So it's another sort of reason to ensure those tax filings are done regularly and correctly, so you can actually reclaim tax.
Yeah.
Which is quite critical here.
Yeah. To what we were saying before, will we be sending out the links to next webinars? Yes. We'll get someone to pop them on the chat so that you can all access it, and afterwards we'll send them as well. So you will all have access to the language-specific webinars with the date and the time, so you can all register.
Of course, and I think if you go through either our LinkedIn channels, you'll see that being advertised, or if you reach out to one of the team, once again, we're more than happy to sort of send out links. It may even be that we send out sort of an email campaign post this to everyone who's attended, just giving you some information and dates when exactly these webinars are happening with invitations, just like the one today.
Yeah, perfect. Next up, we have a question. If you're already registered with Avast or French VAT, do I have to do anything? I'd like to ask you, Ramiz, are you with Amazon VAT currently, the ones that have been cancelled? So did you go through Amazon VAT Avast and that's why you're asking, or are you with Premium? Because it's going to depend on your answer what the solution is. But if you're with Amazon VAT, all you have to do is sign the new terms and conditions, because you're no longer servicing via Amazon, you're servicing via Avast. Sign the new terms and conditions, and then join our portal so that we can do the filings for you automatically. So that's really it. That's all you have to do. And if you're on Premium, you don't have to do anything. Everything's perfect as it is.
Excellent. I think there is one more question here on the chat there at the bottom.
Is Amazon...
There we go. So, the question here is not very specific to perhaps the service. Did Amazon end the web service, or did Avast continue? I think it was more a decision from both parties. It wasn't anything in terms of the relationship. It's more just the longevity and the complexity behind the tax situation. As Europe becomes more stringent with how taxes are collected and remitted, and different implementations of sort of the eco tax that they're implementing, I think it was sort of noticed that it's such a complicated, dynamic, and thing that it needs to be done by an external company to be able to adapt and assure that they're specialized in those areas. So, the situation is, if you continue with the Avast, you're going to be in good hands, as we're sort of how our ears on the ground, so you can hear what's happening in the different tax offices. And of course, we try our best to inform each of you about these changes.
Perfect. Let's have a look at this one. It's a bit longer, but the scenario is that you've been signed up to Amazon VAT for several countries for 3 years now. That's great. However, as with Get not to sell anything due to various issues with Amazon, okay, it's still worth you keeping this up and running if we know we won't be selling anything in these countries. As James was saying, the thing with VAT is if you do have a VAT number live, you have to file in those countries, which is, I guess, why you're asking the question, should I keep up that maintenance of the VAT number if you're not going to use it? I would say this is a company choice that you're going to have to make. Is it worth the investment that you put into getting these VAT numbers? And in the short term, are you looking to sell in these countries? If yes, then I would recommend that you keep them. But if you think that it's going to be another 3 years that you're not going to use the VAT numbers, you could cancel them. In all honesty, they could be cancelled as well when there's no filings or there's no sales for a long period of time. The tax office often cancels the numbers because they're not being used. So I would say it's a company choice, really.
Definitely. It depends on the strategy and how quickly you can navigate those sort of, regulations that you're sort of infringing on in respect to Amazon. As mentioned, we've seen it massively in the last 24 months that tax offices are deregistering VAT numbers if you aren't importing, storing, or selling, even if you're doing a nil filing. So, if you do see potential within the next 12 months to get goods on the ground and start selling, by all means do so. Bear in mind these VAT numbers belong to your company and not Amazon. Therefore, you can sell on other operations, other marketplaces, and all the other bits and pieces. As mentioned today, the likes of Kaufland has sort of expanded, and also bol.com. So consider that option as well. Although the Amazon platform and channel may be blocked for now, this isn't hindering you from actually selling.
Yeah, and with Q4 coming up, I think it's a great investment that you've done getting these VAT numbers. So I would make use of them if you can. Obviously, you'll see the most sales in Q4, so give it a go. See how the sales go. You have the VAT number, which means that you can store in these countries. By storing, you also have prime eligibility, and you obviously have lower shipping costs. But as James was saying, if Amazon isn't the right platform, there's loads of local marketplaces that you can use. So personally, I would suggest use Q4 as a testing period. And if after that you see that it doesn't work, then you can always cancel them. Great.
And
Well,
I think we may have one more question that's come up, which we may be able to answer sort of live. Will you be claiming the VAT of, the mark,
Okay.
the one above? That's
Well,
fine.
we can do this one.
Definitely. So in regards to the question, will all users gain access to the Avast portal? The Avast portal that we utilize is used across a few of our services, from VAT services through to sort of our custom service and the ATS promotion of selling parcels between the United Kingdom and mainland Europe and other way around. If you would like more information on that, do reach out to us. More than happy to explain it. But the platform necessarily will be primarily used by the sort of premium of our service, as it is currently, whilst the self-serve will be utilized through a slightly different platform, which has been adapted more to the requirements on that front.
Yeah. I also just wanted to point, if anyone does have any questions that weren't answered about self-serve, we have a dedicated inbox that you can reach out on, onboarding@avast.com. So just email us on there and we can answer any questions. We've got a question from Chris.
Splendid.
Mentioned about OSS is not essential if you're selling via Amazon only. What about if we sell through our own website and fulfill via Amazon multi-channel?
Splendid. I'd give this a good go. I think with regards to your operations, I'm assuming if it's a non-European business operating through Amazon, you won't necessarily need the OSS. The OSS is there to collect and remit the sales tax on B2C cross-border trade through your own website or through a non-online marketplace. So Chris, if you're selling through your own website, be it Shopify, Magento, Wix, or these other sort of software platforms that enable you to create a website, and you are using the MCF, which is multi-channel fulfillment program from Amazon, they are merely operating as a logistics and courier service. So you are still required to collect that tax, be it 19%, 20%, or 21%, depending where you're selling to, and remitting it through the OSS return. So to mention very quickly, the OSS isn't needed for Amazon if you're non-European, but it is required for your own market website sales.
Yeah, perfect. I think going back to Calvin's one, yes, everyone can access the Avast portal. So although you might be on self-serve or you might be on premium, at the end of the day, the filings will be done on the Avast portal. So you can ensure that these are all perfectly done. It's just the consultation. That's the main thing that's different. So for those of you that are on premium, you will know that you have your account manager that you speak to. And if you have any questions, they can answer it. For the self-serve, although the platform is there for you to use, the consultation wouldn't be. So that's the main difference. But yes, the Avast portal is there for your use.
Splendid. So there's a question that's come in from Jamie. If I'm not mistaken, we have a VAT number in Germany, France, Italy, Spain. So the core sort of pan-EU countries, as we refer to it as. Amazon is now selling our goods to clients in Austria and Netherlands. To actually open that up further, Amazon enables you to sell from those 4 countries to the whole of Europe, to all 27 EU member states. Now, you will only need the VAT number in a country if you are storing there. If you are selling through Amazon through those nations and you're a non-European business, perhaps in this case, Jamie, if you're a UK limited, for example, Amazon will collect and remit the tax on those cross-border trades. So what I mean is if you're storing in Germany and you're sending across to Austria, because it's crossing an international border, Amazon will ensure that the sales tax is collected and remitted in that instance. So you won't need the VAT numbers in Netherlands or Austria unless you do decide to start storing there.
Exactly right. And it goes back to the question about OSS. In this case, if you were a UK company, no, you don't have to have OSS for these kind of sales. But if you were an EU company, then yes, you have to have OSS for this kind of sale, but no need for VAT.
Splendid. I think that's all the questions that have come in. We'll give it a few more moments to let you guys ask any questions you may have. Now, just to reiterate, we do this broadcast on sort of a monthly basis to give you sort of brief updates about what's happening within sort of the Amazon field, the taxation field, which is generally e-commerce. throughout Europe and the United Kingdom specifically. So do stay tuned in for the next broadcast, which is happening probably, I think, in about 4 weeks' time.
And obviously we have the webinars next week. So make sure that you join those if you still have questions. And again, in every language. So whichever one is your preference, you can join. And then James and I will be in the next broadcast for more topics, more questions. But hopefully we've answered all of your questions today. Again, if you need any assistance, we have the generic email that you can send onboarding@avast.com if you've got any questions. Our website as well, if you want to join any of our programs, and the Q&A sessions next week.
Precisely. Well, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you've taken something away from this broadcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.